Welcome everyone to Politically High Tech with your host, Elias. This is going to be very New York-esque. You know, I got a bias. I'm proud of it. Love me or hate me, I'm still going to spread New York bias from time to time. Okay. I was born, molded, raised in New York. Okay. And I have a guest who is New York as well. Look, you don't have to be a native to earn a New York status. I say you gotta live 10 years and embrace the New York. You're a New Yorker, okay? That makes us naturally inclusive. I know some people debate that. I don't give a rat's behind what they say. You could adapt becoming a New Yorker if you truly embrace being a New Yorker. But I'm sure that's gonna bore you once I tell you about being a New Yorker, how you could become a New Yorker if it's debatable or not. We're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about something far more interesting, far more interesting. And all I'm gonna say is, just get ready to have your minds blown. And trust me, your host is a victim as well. All right. I'm going to introduce him. I'm going to get straight into it because I just can't wait. This is my New York anxiety and patience kicking in on overdrive. Okay, I'm going to go straight to it. So this guy here, he is the New York State Senate, okay, funded dyslexia researcher. What the hell does that mean to you? Well, I'm going to have him elaborate on that once he introduces himself. So, to start this off, what do you want the audience, the listeners to know about you? And what the hell does that title mean for anyone who is brain dead right now, but they probably going to have a rude awakening?
All right, so my name's Russell Van Brocklen. I'm a New York State Senate funded researcher. What the hell does that mean? It means I got your tax dollars to test dyslexic kids in a public school, and it took me about 5 years for the state to give me that money. And I never saw a dime of it. It went right to the school district. They managed the testing because they wanted a school district, not a university, to see this is the real world. What was it like? All right. But before I get to that, I think you'll find it interesting what got me there, because I was not supposed to be a dyslexia researcher. I was supposed to be a bureaucrat in the New York State government. So in the late 90s, finishing up with college, and I wanted to know how laws worked. Not some course. I wanted to freaking know. So I signed up for the New York State New York State Assembly internship program. So I go there, I'm accepted, and I say, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing ability. They looked at that and said, this is not going to work. It is just not possible for you to do the internship. So they got a committee together. And they said, okay, we're not going to place you in the legislative office building. We're going to place you in the Capitol with the Majority Leaders Program and Counsel's office. They run the assembly day to day because they got 3 administrative assistants. I looked at that and said, I'll take that all day because they don't know what to do with undergraduates. It's a graduate student place. All right. Much better internship. They did that because they had 3 administrative assistants who could take my horrendous writing and turn it into something decent for my weekly reports. I also had to do a big research project for the academic section. So when I did that, I did a very standard accommodation, which was I gave a very long oral report and a huge Q&A. They recommended at the end 15 credits of A-, 3.67 on a 4.0 scale. So then it goes back to the State University of New York Center at Buffalo Political Science Department. They didn't like my accommodations. So they said, so here's your 15 credits of F. Yeah. Okay. Now, mind you, who came up with these bad accommodations? The New York State Legislature. All right. It had to go up to the Speaker of the Assembly. They accommodated the hell out of me. It worked, but they don't like it. So here's your 15 credits of F. I said, okay, I'm done with the discrimination. So I went to my professors that, we weren't these idiots. And I said, where can I go to learn to read and write in grad school? And they said, law school. So I went and audited law classes. Second day of law school, I was called on. They use the Socratic method. What they do is they'll ask you questions when you don't know the answer to embarrass you so that you adapt as quickly as possible. That didn't happen to me. As a dyslexic, I found out later, once we hit grad school, we owned the place day one or soon thereafter. Professor called on me, I answered. He calls on me. I answer again. He can't put me down. Within about a minute or two, I'm leaning forward, yelling at him. He's leaning forward, yelling at me. Goes on 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He finally had to say, Russell, in the interest of time, I have to stop this, move on to the next case. You couldn't be any more correct. I solved reading within a month, writing within a couple of years. So at that point, I'm like, how do I stop this nonsense and apply and fix this for New York State? How do I do that? So we had a little research book come out. It's called Overcoming Dyslexia from Sally Shaywitz, MD at Yale. This is dyslexia. All right. Do you see how the back part of my brain has next to nothing going on, but yours is going crazy?
Yep.
Okay. Now, do you see how the front part of my brain is 2.5 times more active than yours?
Yep.
Okay. According to Yale, that's articulation followed by word analysis. So I looked and said, how can I solve this for highly motivated, intelligent high school kids so they don't have to go through this crap I went through in college? And I said, okay, we have this thing called the Graduate Records Exam, Analytical Writing Assessment. Analytical articulation, same thing. So I said, okay, we're going to go to high school juniors and seniors with middle school writing skills is what we found they had. And we're going to show them how to do the GRE, one class period a day for the school year. All right. Their best teacher, Susan Form, taught this. This was at Averill Park Central School right outside of Albany, New York. What happened? They went from middle school writing to average range of entering graduate students within 1 year. Okay. Now think about that. They're writing at the middle school level, then they're writing average of college graduates. We sent them on to college. They all graduated, GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6, no accommodations. Cost to New York State taxpayers, under $900 a kid. This was 20 years ago. Compared to the best dyslexic college at the time, we were 3x as successful for less than 1% of the cost. That's how I got started.
Wow. Listeners and viewers, before I continue, are you getting this? And this is what I always secretly believed, but I was too much for a coward to say, to be honest. Exponential learning is possible. Look, they were middle school reading, writing, but now they're at average college grad within a year. That's exponential learning right there. It was so behind. Now they even, I would dare to say, perform better than the average college person who's not labeled dyslexic, ADHD, autism, whatever. Okay. So, and I came to this belief that these people are just function very different. It's just like you saw the comparison between the quote unquote normal brain. No one's really normal. Let's be real. And a dyslexic brain. There's one part that was deficient, but there was other part that was making up that was twice as active as a normal brain. They process things differently. Instead of, but the problem is, and sadly, your discriminatory journey, let's just say like that, really highlights the society's discrimination. This is why I don't believe in these little positive messages. I said, look, you haven't really progressed until I start seeing accommodations, and even to some extent, to a lesser extent, racism being addressed. Because I still see disabled people get discriminated. The unemployment rate for disabled people are higher than the so-called, normal. I'm going to put normal in quotes. They got problems too. Some of them are sociopaths, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to do the quote-unquote normal bashing. So I hope you're getting this, people. This is exciting here. I didn't know this. Just like you listeners and viewers, I'm learning this, okay? I got some stats in education, but look, but thing is, I'm sure he's going to get more deeper to how I could be pissed off and where my state tax dollars are being misused, abused, wasted. You might as well burn the dollar bills because they're just doing it, these politicians. But
well, let's go into that. So I want to introduce you to nowadays. So a couple years ago, there's this really great guy who's in the Senate. His name is Senator Brad Hoylman-Segal. He's the chair of our Judiciary Committee. All right. He's a Rhodes Scholar from Oxford, and he's a Harvard Law grad. Now, he has this rare thing called common sense. So his daughter, Sylvia, he said this publicly, I'm not betraying anything. Sylvia is dyslexic, okay? It's in 4th grade. And so one of his friends in the assembly, Senator Carroll, who is dyslexic, said, she might be dyslexic. So Senator Hoyle and Seagal's family can afford this. Her neuropsychological exam was $8,000. That's the Manhattan price. All right. They can afford it. She's dyslexic. He was told, and it's based on the number one book in the damn field. If they came to her, especially if she was in kindergarten, maybe beginning first grade, if you contacted Yale, they would say, here's how you test for dyslexia in kindergarten. It's cheap. Okay. The teachers can do it. It's really accurate. And then they have all these federally funded programs. Pick what you want. You follow that by the end of third grade. If you pass the reading and writing test for New York State at the end of third grade, English language arts third grade, you're going to be statistically, you're going to be fine. You fail it, it's an education 911 emergency. All right, because K through 3 you learn to read, third and above you read to learn. Well, Sylvia's now in fourth grade, so now you have to go to a $75,000 a year private school, which again Senator Hoylman Seagal's family can afford. Give you an example. For Upper East Side, the Windward School, 98% success rate of taking a dyslexic way behind and making them as educated as physically possible. They'll send them back to the school they came from. 4 to 5 years later, it's $75K a year. The teachers get paid nothing because it's 4 to 1 or 5 to 1 student teacher ratio. All right. So, and it takes 2 years to learn their process, the Orton-Gillingham approach. But if he found out in kindergarten, they could have solved it very easily. So Senator Hoylman Seagal's looking at this and said, this is stupid. What about normal people? Why are we not testing in kindergarten and then giving the best science and getting this stuff done by the end of fifth grade? That was his question. Because in New York State, we are the highest tax state in the country. Sorry, California, we beat you. We spend more per kid than any other state. California teachers wish we spend what we spend per kid. So what the senator did is he said, let's get a dyslexia task force to examine things. So they got 100 of the best people in the state, and they came up with a report that was released last December 27th. Okay. And it says, using current technologies, here's how we can solve this. Okay. Does that make sense to you?
To be honest, I'm still trying to process this story because, of course, he could afford it, but imagine just a normal person. That's what I'm thinking. A normal person can't afford this.
Yeah. What he did, and Senator Carroll, who went to Windward, he got that first-rate education, went to the best SUNY school, Binghamton, and then he went through law school. That's how good that school is. All right. So what they're essentially saying is it's really simple. Let's break it down. Let's figure out how to get everybody tested in kindergarten because it's cheap. Now, how do we get them by grade level by the end of fifth grade? They took the 100 top people in the state, researchers, teachers, parents, and they wrote up a report saying, given current technology, here's how you do it. Okay? Really good idea. Now, it goes to the New York State legislature. It didn't pass for 2 reasons. Number 1, drum roll, please, we can't afford it, apparently. They never attached the numbers to it. Number 2, the teachers rebelled like crazy because we've already added a lot of stuff onto them in the last couple of years. Okay. They said, we don't have weeks to learn how to do all this. Okay. So what did they pass? Some $250,000, whatever it was, to do some additional studying or whatever. So we have the report, but because of how expensive it's going to be, and because it's so much stuff putting on the back of the teachers, legitimately, it got shot down primarily for what I can find for those 2 reasons. I could be wrong, but that's what I found out best I could. All right. So we still got these kids that if we took care of this stuff in kindergarten using current technology, they're fine by the end of 3rd grade. But if you wait until 4th grade, it's going to cost you $300 to $375K to fix it. Okay. And if the schools don't get the kids tested in kindergarten, federal judges call that, ready for this, gross negligence. Not negligence, gross negligence. It's like having a doctor leaving a huge medical thing about that big in you after surgery. Like, how could you be that insanely incompetent? All right. So that's what's going on. And each year these kids are in special ed. We're like spending twice as much to educate them. And the results are, instead of passing a lot of state tests with 10%, plus or minus a couple of points, the typical school is around 40 to 60% for everybody else. Okay. So we're spending double the amount for like 20%, 15% of the results. Okay, see the problem here?
Listeners and viewers, I hope you're paying attention. No. This is actually this pisses me off because you have a clear study that is cost efficient, preventative, okay, for the most part, mostly preventative, and now they're just settling with, okay, we just spent a lot more just to
billions
bump it up. Yeah, billions of dollars while we could have address it. But I mean, the only decent point I heard out of that rejection was it was just too much on the teachers. Well, let's figure that part out.
Well, I figured that part out. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Now, remember what I told you about the teachers saying this was too much to learn, because it would take, to learn all this stuff would take a long time. All right. So what if I told you we could cut that down to about 3 hours?
I mean, if that was a major complaint, that should resolve it.
Right. But we can now, and just, who my person I'm working with this, there were about 3 or 4 teachers on the task force. One of them was Evelyn Whitebay. She was 3 to 4 times as effective as a typical special ed teacher. The New York State Education Department senior guy literally put a lot of pressure on her and her former superintendent to literally force her onto the task force. Okay. We met at the public comment hearing, found out we're essentially doing very, very similar things. So let me tell you how we can do this, what would take everybody else weeks and weeks and weeks, how we can do this in a matter of a couple hours for teachers. So let's go back to the science. Again, here's the book. There's the brain scan again, that front part of the brain. All right. You see how it's 2.5 times overactive?
Yep.
Okay. Now, when I did that initially, we got to understand, it was articulation followed by word analysis. I used the graduate records exam, analytical writing assessment, analytical articulation. When I presented this in New York City in 2006, I was asked, does this work for normal kids, younger kids? And I said, no way. This was a demonstration with the elite juniors and seniors. They said, okay, come back when you can deal with us with normal kids. I had to take off 8 years. This is what I spent it on. So what I realized is I can't do articulation followed by word analysis. I had to flip those. Word analysis followed by articulation. So I'm about to train you and your audience that they can do tonight how you can take your dyslexic kid who's writing essentially randomly placed misspelled words and bring their writing ability up to the end of second, beginning third grade level. Multiple year increase in writing, multiple year increase in reading. Are you ready?
Of course. Audience and viewers, I'm going to force you to be ready. Even if you say no, you're going to be ready.
This is so simple. We start off with word analysis. First of all, do you know any dyslexic elementary kids by any chance? Ever?
To be honest, no, I only knew a few dyslexic adults.
Okay. So I'm just going to, the example I use when I present in New York City, her name is Sarah. She's 10 years old. Favorite activity in the world is swimming. She's on the swim team, gets in the pool every chance she can get. Problem with Sarah, she's writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words. Here's how we fix that. And this is not going to take you 2 months to learn. You're going to learn in the next few minutes. All right. What we do is we have you type out not on an iPad, not on an iPhone, not handwriting, a laptop with a real keyboard. You're going to type out hero +, what are we talking about? And she's going to copy that. Copying is fine. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, Default Writing Strategy of Copying. Then we're going to swap out hero for Sarah. So we've got Sarah +, what are we talking about? Then we have a list of Sarah's 10 favorite things and things she really can't stand. We'll start off with what she likes, like what she likes the most is swimming. So we got Sarah +, what are we talking about? We replace what are we talking about with swimming. Sarah + swimming. See how we got there? Now, when I present at everyone reading in New York City, the vast majority of school teachers don't get this because they don't do exactly what I say. I'm going to try fool you with the simplest questions you've ever been asked, and you're going to have an epiphany on dyslexia. Do you think I can fool you?
Give it a shot. I'm going to
Okay.
say no, just be resistant.
Let me tell you, I'm going to give you the simplest questions you've ever been asked. You just have to answer them precisely and it'll work. Otherwise, it doesn't. You ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, we got Sarah plus sign swimming. We got to replace the plus sign with a word to make a proper 3-word sentence. Here's my question. Does Sarah like or dislike swimming?
Well, she just said she likes swimming, so Sarah likes swimming.
But that's not what I asked. Do you see what happened?
Oh my goodness. I was just paying attention to the fact that she likes swimming, but okay.
Do you see it or do you still not see it?
Okay, you see, I thought the plus sign was like. That's a connection I was making, but so it sounds like she just
no. Like was I asked, does Sarah like or dislike? The answer is like. Do you see the problem?
Sarah likes swimming.
But no. See, you did it again.
Yeah.
Do I have you completely confused?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, you're about to have that big epiphany on what dyslexia is. So I would ask Sarah, do you like or dislike swimming? She would say like. Okay. As an educated person, you did what almost every educated person does. You added the S and made it a proper sentence. Sarah's dyslexic. She doesn't know how to add the S. Okay.
Oh, wow. Just that small, minute, but simple detail. Wow.
Now, I want you to imagine you won that big lottery. You took the payout. You got, after Uncle Sam, $150 million in the bank. You're Sarah's dad. She's in 5th grade. She's not reading or writing. She's at the 2nd grade level. The Windward School says, put her on the subway, bring her up here. In 4 or 5 years, we'll send her back to wherever school she's in, and she'll be as educated as humanly possible. It's $75K a year plus all the other fees. You going to pay it?
Of course I want. I got the lottery money, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to pay it, okay? But a lot of parents don't live by these schools. They have to send them away to boarding school. They don't want to do that. All right. So how are we going to get Sarah to, how do they do it? They're going to use a Orton-Gillingham multi-sensory structured language approach. You might be asking, what the hell is that? They're going to use seeing, touching, hearing, smelling, tasting, every sense they can throw at it, and it eventually works. Why does it take 4 to 5 years? Because Dr. Orton passed away in 1948. This has not changed much since the 50s. How do I know? I'm a reviewer for the biggest dyslexia conference in North America, the International Dyslexia Association's annual conference. I review the reading and writing ones. They're at the leaf stage of a vein in a leaf making small changes. That's what they're stuck in. So how do we do this in the next 2 minutes? I will take Sarah and say, Sarah will write out, Sarah like swimming, because that's what I asked her. I would have Sarah read what you wrote out loud. Does that sound generally correct? She's going to say no. Then I'm going to say, Sarah, fix it. Sarah likes swimming. We practice that 10 with likes, 10 with dislikes. Okay? Do you see how that's a very simple form of word analysis?
It's very simple, but it's easy to overlook.
Right. But remember, now we did word analysis. We're using the 2.5 times overactive front part of the brain. Then we're going to go because, and you see how the reasons are a form of articulation. Okay. So now this is all the front part of the brain. This is what you need to realize. This is 2.5 times the neuroactive. This is her strength. This is her superpower. Now give me a very simple reason why a 10-year-old girl who likes swimming. Because give me a simple reason.
Well, it's very fun.
It's fun. Everybody says that. Everybody. Okay. So now we have Sarah likes swimming because it's fun. Now, do you see how we have a whole bunch of misspelled words there? So here's how we fix it. We tell Sarah to drop the period. Once she drops a period, if there's a major grammatical mistake, and I mean major, or a spelling mistake, then she has to retype the entire sentence. All right? So I want you to think about that. Now she has to retype the entire sentence. It's usually between 3 and 13 times. She's going to keep saying to herself, I'm not going to make that mistake. And she keeps making it somewhere between, and she keeps concentrating more and more. Finally, between around 9 to 13 times, she's concentrating so hard that some kids, you can see sweat coming down their forehead. And that's where the magic happens. It keeps going until she keeps making those mistakes until she doesn't. Then have her do 10 likes and 10 dislikes, where everything, you keep doing it until it's spelled correctly. All right. If it's number 19, she makes a spelling mistake, restart it up again. All right. Then we do reason 1 and reason 2. We come up with 2 reasons connected by the glue word and. Then reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3. If you're talking about a typical 5th grader and mom or dad, and usually I'm just going to say the facts, for kids in high school and younger, it tends to be a mom thing 90% of the time. How do I know? Facebook used to give us way too much data, and that's where I got it from. Dads tend to get involved when there's a problem in college and the kid's failure to launch. That's when I tend to get involved with that one. So what we're looking at here is so what we're doing is once we get finished with this, you're looking at end of second, beginning third year level writing ability. And here's a big secret. If you can write it, you can read it. Okay. If you can write it, you can read it. All right. For a 5th grader, it would take between 2 and 6 weeks. For a 3rd grader, you're looking at the entire semester. Because what's different about my approach is the older you are, the quicker you pick it up. Orton Gillingham is the exact opposite. All right. So I just showed you in a couple of minutes how you can take our word analysis followed by articulation and get a multiple year increase with your kid. That's the beginning part. All right. So now here's a slight problem. You try implementing that with your kid beyond what I just told you. And surprise, surprise, they don't want to do the work. So had to figure out how the heck do we get these dyslexic kids to give a damn? So I went back and I talked to all these successful professors. And what they told me, I heard the same story over and over again. These are full professors that are dyslexic. And what they told me is compared to their gen ed peers, they did horrible K through college. Day 1 of graduate school, or soon thereafter, they're number 1 in their class. Why? Because grad school is their speciality. It's their area of extreme interest and ability. So if you have a kid who's ADD or ADHD, same thing. So for example, did you ever watch the original movie Fast and Furious?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you remember that scene where Paul Walker's bringing this car from the junkyard and he's sitting down with his computer whiz and they're looking on the computer to see what it could look like once they're done fixing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. In that scene, Paul Walker said, "How come you're not at MIT? You're amazing." He said, "I'm really good at this. I can't do the other stuff." Before dyslexics, ADD and ADHD, if you're in your speciality, you're hyper-focused. So I want you to think about this. If you're an audience member and you got a kid with ADD or ADHD that they can't concentrate, you can't get them to do anything, find their speciality and they're locked in for hours. You have to physically drag them away to get them to stop. Let me give you an example. So would it surprise you that this is my most popular book when I work with kids independently? All 1,000 pages of this monster. It's Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination. Have you ever been to Walt Disney World or Disneyland?
Only once.
Okay. How old were you?
9.
Okay. Was it Disney World?
Yeah, it was Disney World. I think, where was it? In Florida. Yeah, it was Orlando, Florida. Yep.
Yeah.
That one.
So you go into the Magic Kingdom. You're in Main Street, USA. Did you feel the Disney magic?
I'm not even sure. Yeah, some people say they did. Me, I just love the fireworks show, if that's considered Disney magic. But other than that, I was like, oh, that's a nice little amusement park.
Walt passed away in 65. Okay. It's not what it used to be. A lot of kids feel that, a lot of people feel it, some don't, but those that do really get it. It's based on 2 universal themes. So what I will do is I'll take a 10-year-old who's reading like they're in 2nd grade, and I will give them this 1,000-page monster that's designed for 17-year-olds. All right. And I start off at Marceline, Missouri. There's about 3,600 words. And I'll say, what does Walt like? What does he dislike? What does he want to do? And there's a very simple process I give. And those kids are on that section for maybe a couple of months until they can read it with no assistance. People ask, well, my kid won't do that. And I said, you're right. Unless it's in their speciality, then they will. These kids desperately want to find the Disney magic. 2 years later, now people say, what do you mean 2 years? I said, well, remember the Windward School is 4 to 5 years, and they got those kids all day long, full time. I'm working with parents who are doing this 10, 15 minutes a night. All right. You see the difference? All right. So we get through. So after 2 years, the kids finish with their book. And we go to mom. Mom has a master's degree. We say, what's the second universal thing? And mom can't find it. And her 12-year-old daughter points to her and goes, Mom, it's right there. And I said, well, your 12-year-old daughter in this book can comprehend better than you can. And you have a master's degree. Have I done my job? Okay. So what I'm trying to say there is if you're in the kid's speciality, they will go like crazy. And that's only for the intervention period that you have to keep them in until they're at grade level. Now, that's rule number 1. Rule number 3 is word analysis followed by articulation. The second part of the model is you can't teach a dyslexic from the general to the specific. Let me give you an example. Imagine you were paid to do this assignment. Let me know if you could just know what to do. Here's the question. What effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s? Could you now go and write a paper on that?
Yeah, if I could research and all that, of course.
Yeah, if you were paid, somebody said, here's $10,000, go get me a 10-page research paper on this.
Yeah.
You could just go and do it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But what's
For
the caveat?
dyslexic, what's the caveat?
Yep, those gonna be the dyslexic caveat.
Okay, here's the dyslexic caveat. We can't do that because it's like asking us to grab fog. All right. Here's why. If you ask a dyslexic in their speciality, do you have ideas in your speciality? Do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question, but with little to no organization. They're going to say yes. Okay. How we fix that is we force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Okay. Does that make sense?
Based on the method you've been teaching us so far. Yeah.
So here's how we do it. We ask a question that's the specific to the general. So we ask what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech. We find the information, and that answer will provide another question. We answer that. Will provide another question. This forces us to think, organize our brain into a linear step-by-step manner because we have ideas flying around our head at light speed with little to no organization. That forces our brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So let's look what the model is. We focus on the speciality. We get a book, an audio book, a couple of years ahead of where we want to be so we can grow into it. Then it's specific to the general, and then word analysis followed by articulation. How effective is this? I'm currently writing a book. It's going to be called Literacy and Reading Dyslexia Turnaround. It's about Kimberly and she's a homeschooling mom and her son Reed. I met them last December 27th. Reed was just tested right before Christmas. She spent $700 getting her kids tested because they're homeschooled by the state of Ohio. He had a reading and writing ability of a beginning third grader. So he's about a year and a half behind. For 1.5 hours a week, so 3 half-hour sessions, most parents do 10 to 15 minutes a night. I worked for the next 5.5, 6 months. I worked with Kimberly half an hour a week. Reed was supposed to increase, if he was in public school, according to his measurement, by about 2.5 points for the rest of the school year. That didn't happen. He increased by 20 points. So the school was supposed to do it 2 to 2.5. He increased by 20. Okay. We're talking 6, 7 times faster than expected. And mom's doing this for a small fraction of the time because we followed the method that actually used the part of his brain that freaking worked. So why is this so important? Because last summer, his friends came to him and they said, Reed, I want you to think back when you were going into middle school. They said, Reed, we want you to come to public school with us so you can be with us in lunchtime, be with us in class, be with us socially. All right. If that was in January, he would have placed in special ed. Nobody could help him. He would have been away from his friends. Very miserable kid. Now he's in 6th grade doing just fine in mainstream classes. 2 problems that Reed has faced. Remember, he was in his speciality, what he really cared about all the time. For him, it was X-Men. It was Wolverine. But now he's in things, all these other things, he didn't like it. So in math class, his teacher said they want the kids to do a lot of writing, and he's slower in that, and he always will be a little slower. So he rebelled. What happens when you have a well-raised kid and parents and teachers are a wall? He tried fighting it, couldn't get anywhere. He says, okay, I'll do it. He's fine there. Then one class, he's supposed to upload his journal to Google Docs or something. Google something. Didn't do it twice. Forgot about it. That's why he had a C. Now he's doing it. He's moved up to a B. So he's doing just fine. We don't have to do the $75,000 a year school thing. Mom and dad can do this at home. Okay. Sounds simple enough?
And does most importantly, practical, manageable, and a fraction of a cost and time.
Yeah. But okay, now imagine the teachers in our state. We're in New York State. We spend more in education than anybody. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to start talking about the richer suburban school districts. Would you believe that they got like 300 applicants per position? 300.
I go per position, you said.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people
So
want
you're
to teach.
talking about teachers in the top 1% of their profession. All right. Evelyn and I can go in and show them how to do all this. It takes a while to show parents because this isn't your profession generally. If it is your profession, we can show you how to do this in about 3 hours at a leisurely pace. What does that mean? Instead of having 10% give or minus a couple of points of passing English language arts test in third grade through fifth grade, we can show you how to get that above 50, 60%. We can close the gap between gen ed and special ed. Okay. And we can do it in 3 hours. And here's the things for the teachers where the stuff from Yale are telling you exactly what to do every session all the time. You can take our material and say, I don't like something about it. Happens to me every time I present a major dyslexia conference. My response, right. For teachers, take my stuff and modify it to your teaching style and who you're working with. I don't even recognize my stuff when I go into schools because it's changed so much. All right. It's cheap. We can afford this. We can teach. We don't have, Evelyn and I do not have to show up at your school district. We can do it online in a half a day. Now, if you give us the full day, let me tell you what Reed's doing, because now we're going to go into the artificial intelligence. We're going to move towards that area. I use a book called The Craft of Research. Why? Because when I presented in 2006, the professors came to me and said, I had students, get this, 70th percentile of entering grad students, 20 points above average, and they're in high school. And the professor said, we don't care. We want the craft of research. I was like, the craft of what? Craft of research. Came out in 1995 by the University of Chicago because their PhD students didn't know how to write dissertations. Now it's the best-selling book in its field, and it's down to super advanced high school kids. Well, I took its context, get everybody on the same page, problem solution. I dropped context to 9-year-olds. Okay. And that's what Reed went through. So now that Reed's a little bit above grade level, he went from the 5th to 11th percentile with reading and writing. His reading's now at the 65th percentile. So he's above average. So we're not in any rush now. So what we're doing is we're now doing body paragraphs. He's working on it at the senior year of high school level. Remember, he's still 10. He's almost 11. So what I'm doing is I'm sending him back to find not one quote, but 2 quotes. Okay. And they're at the beginning of a story and the end per body paragraph. And he finds a bunch of quotes per universal theme. And then he finds the best one. So we have 2. Now for the next part, we're getting towards the AI stuff. How far did you go in your education?
I got a bachelor's degree.
Okay. What'd you get your degree in?
History. Because that was my interest.
Same with me. So you wrote lots of papers, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Let me ask you. So you have a body paragraph and you know how you get a bunch of quotes per paragraph, right?
Yep.
Here's my question to you. What's a warrant in regards to a body paragraph? Probably have no idea?
No.
Nobody below a PhD knows what a warrant is. It's a way of congealing those facts, those quotes, into a solidified flowing argument. It's a process taught to PhD students. Reed will start learning how to do that probably in the spring semester. Then I add a few other skills. I use 2 quotes, 2 warrants. This is at a minimum senior year in high school level. Really, it's well into college. All right. Reed is going to be multiple grade levels above his peers. He's going to be at the top of the mountain walking down. That's what I do with problem. Solution. Remember in high school, did you ever write a paper on Romeo and Juliet?
No.
Okay, but remember, give me a book that everybody reads in high school that you wrote a paper on.
Let's see. I know I read, now, wow, my high school memory is getting fogged up. If I'm going to have to dig. I know I wrote a paper on Animal Farm.
Okay, so let's take Animal Farm. What do you think? How hard is it to write a paper that's truly original on Animal Farm?
I would say it's hard because a lot of people's gonna think probably similar things about it. It was a historical thing. Me, I'm gonna use the historical perspective. That's why I tend to connect things to.
Right,
Um,
but if you're looking at historical perspective, let's say you're an A student. Can you imagine AP students have been pretty writing very similar themes on that paper? I know there's a bunch of them, but they've been written on for the past several decades. When I teach the craft of research, we use at that point we're going into we're using I'm just using ChatGPT because that's the big one out there. When they came out with the pro model last December for $200 a month, I bought it that day and I haven't looked back. So now when I teach that, remember, the kid's already writing at least senior year of high school, probably college. I am now having them using 5 Pro when I'm teaching how to do things that are completely original because it's required for employment now. If you want a job, this is what you have to do. So when I get done with these kids, they turn in a paper that's not only original at the high school level, we shoot for original at the grad level. Okay. Something completely original every time. So if I taught 20 kids in an AP class how to do this, the teacher would get 20 original essays, which doesn't happen. Things that they actually learn from, something substantive, happens a handful of time in a career. Now it'll happen every time with every kid if they follow this. Why is that important? You need to understand this, and you can check this out. There was the head of Anthropic, CEO. He said in 5 years, he believes half the jobs for new college grads are gone. Why? Because AI can replace them. For me, when I'm using AI, I'm using 5 Pro. I have 5 Pro on the internet. I have 5 Pro going on the app on my desktop. And then I'm using Anthropic Sonic 4.5 to answer emails and to check what 5 Pro creates. And I'm doing 3 things at once all day. It has literally more than 5x my production. So why is this important? Because now every week I listen to podcasts about people hiring people and the AI interruption. What they are now expecting for a recent college grad is they're expecting somebody to become senior within 6 to 12 months. Usually they want 6. All right. So just to get the job, you have to tell them how you use AI to solve at least a personal problem. Okay. And if you can't, you're not getting hired. If you can and you do well, you're going to make a heck of a lot more money because you're so much more productive. Let me give you an example how important this is. I had a client who hates AI, right? I haven't worked with him for a couple of years. He was, I worked with him in high school, graduated last year, 2024. His boss loved AI because he said, I'm not going to allow you to spend hours to create a draft when AI can do it in 10 minutes. So then you can work from it. So what he did is he said, okay, let's see if any of you have any idea that can help the company, anything creative. He contacts me. He's scared. He said, I hate AI. I don't know what to do. I said, I trained you in the craft of research. You've practiced in college for 4 years. I said, go to pick an AI model. I don't care which one. Talk to it, type with it, figure out context. He comes back a few days later, did that. I said, okay, now go do problem. He comes back a few days later. I hate this. Said, welcome to the adult world, right? And I said, go do problem. So then he turns in a 5-paragraph essay, which I trained him to do. That's the only one the boss found that was any practical use. Said, yeah, we've had this problem for, it's a little thing. We had it for a while. We know we need to fix it. We just never came around to it. He solved it. Within a week, he's teaching his peers how to do AI because he knows the craft of research and he knows how to get solutions done that matter. Okay. I showed him how to prompt engineer his brain. That's how important AI is. And if you know the craft of research, you can do it well. The problem is the craft of research was designed for PhD students, and I used this to combine it and it fixed it. Okay. So that's the importance of AI. So what I'm showing you and why I'm doing all of these podcasts to get the message out is because in New York State, when we come back with this next session, Evelyn and remember, she was on the state task force. We're hoping we can convince the state to let us go in and solve this problem, and we can do it. This is 650 school districts, a little under New York State. We can show them how to do this online in a matter of about 3 hours. This is not hard to do.
Listeners and viewers, I hope you was paying attention. This is valuable stuff. Me as a host, I am learning a heck of a lot. I was writing notes like I was a student. He's conforming me. He bet on this. Thank goodness it's not money I would have to pay up. I know when to bet and not to bet. Thank goodness I chose not to bet here. I would have lost this bet. I'm being honest. He's going to conform to think. He's like, I'm right. Craft the research. I'm writing notes here as we talk. I do that a little bit, but this one I was writing extensive notes. That this is valuable stuff here. Especially those who are dyslexic or you know someone who is dyslexic, please share this episode. Please share this because this is really valuable stuff. And for those who are, who got specialized brains, I'm just gonna put it like that, even for the quote unquote normal. Do you find any use of this? I certainly do. I'm not dyslexic, even though I claim to have unofficial ADHD, just to, say I don't give a rat's behind about the subject and just tune out. But all the seriousness, are you learning here? Because this is such good stuff. I hope I get to be in the New York State sometime to see this pass through because this would be so great. This should pass through New York State. Pass this damn thing through. It's cost effective. It's timely. Come on, it's within the 21st century. We do so many things real fast. This doesn't take a lot of time. Very say about the cost. It solves that. Those are the main excuses I always hear. Anything related to money or time. Come on. New York government, Kathy Hochul, state senators, all of y'all, pass this damn thing through. Come on, just do it. Just do it. He's addressing all your concerns. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you, okay, let's see if you're ADD or ADHD. What's your speciality? What are you really good at? What do you love? Just one thing, doesn't matter what it is.
I would say history. History is someone I could look up for hours.
So when you're thinking about history, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question, little to no organization. Is that you or not really?
Not really.
Okay. When you're thinking about history, you want to say something. Fingers, keyboard. The idea's in your head. You take your fingers, put it on the keyboard. Does the idea fly out of your head, leaving you with an empty brain? Is that you or not really?
No, I could write like a couple of things, specific, and even come up with some questions, but yeah.
The idea doesn't fly out. Okay. Last question. When you were in elementary school, were you ever threatened to be held back because of bad grades?
Only for, ironically, reading.
Okay.
I didn't
when they told you, so they were going to hold you back a grade, unless you could do some academic task. Sound familiar?
Yep.
Okay. When they told you that, your friends were going to move on. You were going to be held back with strangers. Did that cause you a lot of mental distress? Like a lot?
It caused me some distress, but I'm not going to say it was really intense because I got to it, and my mom, you already said moms help a lot, and I was that statistic that moms help. So, yeah, it actually caused me some distress, just simply yes.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Was it essentially no adult could really just say, do X, Y, and Z, problem solved? You had to essentially come up with your own solution. And you got so stressed out, and then the answer presented itself. Was that you or not really?
It did. After I stopped getting stressed out and just trying to do what they say.
But let me be very clear here.
Yeah.
They couldn't help you, really. They did not come to you and say, do 1, 2, 3, do this, and you'll pass. They couldn't do that. You got really stressed out, maybe to the point of being clinically dangerous. And then the solution presented itself and you barely passed, but you passed. Is that what happened?
This is going to be like a general, I remember this is going to be like just give my mom some general tips, but even that didn't help. But that situation, there was something that I got stressed. Like I did because I tried to conform just like any other kid. And then after I stopped being stressed out, I was sweating and all that. It decided to click in.
But you found the solution.
I found the solution by trying to read. Ironically, the weird part was like watching more television. That's how I got pronunciations of the words. I started putting that 2 and 2 together.
Right, but you found the solution, not an adult. Right. Okay. So let me guess. That probably happened a few more times when you were going through school, or was it just that once?
It was that one time.
Okay. And then let me guess, as you're going through history class, you were probably an AP history kid?
Not exactly. I just love the history. That was something that when it comes to that was a subject I picked up real quick. Even the weird words and the geography, I
But did you
memorized a lot.
take AP history in high school or no?
No.
Okay. But you majored in college, and as you were going through, especially as you got more advanced, you could just start seeing connections and some ideas that you could develop that others kind of didn't grasp right away. Sound familiar?
Only when it comes to history, yes. Even some connections that most people won't even do. If I have time, yeah. Let's just say yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, there's a chance you may be dyslexic. So if I were to ask that question to a high school student, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's that question is reserved for people that tend to have two characteristics. They're freaking geniuses and they're hyper motivated. All right. So I asked that to a high school kid. Tell you what almost always happens. They want their parents out of the room. I tell them I know their secrets and they freak. And I tell them what happened. But typically, what I'll say is that what usually happens is that happened so many times after that, it became part of you. And they're like, yeah, how did you know? I say, you think you're the only one? So when I did my original program, why was it so successful? Because a key part of that is the spelling and grammar. The teacher spent almost no time on it, self-corrected, from horrendous to clean at the graduate level. When I talked to each one of the kids, they're like, yeah, how did you know? It always happened. It was typically third or fourth grade. And I said, okay. And then it happened so many times. So what happened during that original program, the teacher would start throwing out some general things. It put them in a position where it's self-corrected. So when I told you about how do I transfer that to younger kids, remember I said they would, after reason one, we would say put a period down and they would have to type out. That's when they hyper concentrate. That's how I switched it over to them. Because I don't spend a lot of time on spelling and grammar. It autocorrects mostly. And what remains, I let the teachers clean up the little stuff. Okay. So you may have a form of dyslexia. All right. Now, for parents with kids in New York State, everybody else, you don't get this. You don't pay our taxes. So they passed a law in New York State that says if you think your kid has dyslexia, the insurance company you have is supposed to spend up to $5,000 on a neuropsych. Anything over that, like Senator Hoylman Segal spent $8,000, he would be responsible for $3,000. Those are Manhattan prices. You can usually get it done for $5,000. Now, just because you think your kid has dyslexia doesn't mean the insurance company is going to drop $5,000. Here's how you get around that. Go to your kid's teacher, have them write out why they think the kid's dyslexic. Then go to your pediatrician and say, here's a note from the teacher. I think my kid's dyslexic. Get something in writing from them. All they have to say is they think this kid has dyslexia. It's really hard. You can get past the teacher. It's real hard to get past the pediatrician. So you have them fill that out. And then if the insurance company won't budge, go to the New York State Department of whatever. We pay taxes. We got protections on that side. They will then, a pediatrician thinks the kid is dyslexic. They intercede on your behalf. You get the testing. Said it's real hard to say no to a doctor, especially a pediatrician when it involves kids. So essentially, that's it. Now, if anybody wants to know more about this, they can contact me over at just go to dyslexiaclasses.com. That's plural with an S, dyslexiaclasses.com. There's a button there that says download free guide. Just click on that, answer a couple of questions. You get a document that says the 3 reasons your child's having trouble in school due to dyslexia. It's kind of more details of what we discussed tonight. Most important thing, actually set up a time on my online calendar where I can speak to you for about a half an hour because I'll speak to your kid and they don't want to speak to me. They always push and pull away. Just say you have to do it. Once I ask them a couple of questions like we did tonight, they're like, how did you know? Yeah, that's me. That's what I want to learn. I can help you find out what their specialty is and pick out their book and their audiobook, which is on the same book. Parents have the hardest time doing that. I've tried writing instructions. I've tried videos. The simplest thing is just to have me do that part. And then if you're interested, we set it up so it's affordable. We work with you on a yearly basis. Everything we teach is online. We have a weekly webinar to answer your questions, and we can get you through this. Now, Kimberly took about 6 months. Some kids are faster. Some kids are slower. That's just one data point. But we're showing that because it's possible. You can do this.
Listeners and viewers, there's hope. A very practical one. Very efficient. cost effective. And all I want to say is this: this has been enlightening for me. I know much about dyslexia. I just know, oh, they just probably see words wrong. That's what a lot of people have been taught. I'm sure I'm sure you heard that a trillion times. Listeners and viewers, I'm sure you've heard that a lot. You know, go support him, okay? He's doing important work. You want to be a more truly inclusive instead of just saying it for virtual signal crap or points? This is work right here, especially for the disabled. Well, I want to remove that. They're able. It's just that we define what normal is and we make these people who operate differently feel like crap. Okay. They're smart. You just gave one example how one kid's already grades ahead of his quote quote normal counterparts. Okay. It's just that, and it's true. Their specialty is once you discover that passion, what drives them, what motivates them, it changes so much. It's like a lot of things are lit up time more, more than the so-called normal brain. So this is just something I really hope you're getting here because this is phenomenal stuff. Might as well call this dyslexia is a superpower. Really?
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're in New York State and you're tired of watching billions of dollars being spent ineffectively, remember, instead of getting 40 to 60% of the kids to pass these tests, special ed, which dyslexics make up of sometime around a third to a half the kids, it's around 10%, give or minus a couple of points either way. I would contact your state representative and just tell them that you want the Evelyn White Bay. That's the Evelyn White Bay solution. Why should they even bother caring? She was on the dyslexia task force as a teacher. All right. And I defer to her because we're doing essentially very similar things, but I wasn't selected to be on the task force. She was.
Yep. So go support. Go heckle them through a phone call. Heckle your state senator. Is it only senators or assembly people?
No, it's in the assembly. Just call up and say, hey, for dyslexics, we want the Evelyn White Bay plan. She was on the dyslexia task force. You might want to listen to her. All right. So they will actually listen to phone calls. If you really want to get their attention and don't want to stop wasting billions of dollars ineffectively each year, you're paying for this. We're almost doubling what we're spending on these kids, and we're getting like 20, 25%, 15% of the result. This is not good. Okay. Because I'll give you this little hint. If we can get them at grade level, like Reed, by the end of fifth grade or close to it, you still might be spending some money on them, like on special ed, but we can cut that back by 10,000 plus a year for the rest of the time they're in school. We're talking billions here. If you really want to get their attention, handwrite, not type, handwrite a letter. We want the Evelyn White Bay solution for dyslexics. She was on the dyslexia task force. Just send that to them. All right. To get enough, they will pay attention.
So, especially my fellow New Yorkers, start bothering your assembly person, your state senators. Write a crap ton of handwritten letters. Okay, that's a nice human personal touch to it, as opposed to a type. The type looks professional and clean. They see that a lot. I think they all dyslexic for see so much typed letters and documents. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Let me throw dyslexic at them. Everything comes jumbled and see the same, they just start seeing all of them as the same paper. So that's why handwritten is special. That's that beautiful touch. And it's been okay.
Yeah. What they'll do is they'll listen. They'll take the number of phone calls on an issue, type out, anybody can dictate, have AI generator, they just sign it. They know you don't care. You handwrite a letter and put on that, I don't know, what is it, 70, 80 cents now for a first class stamp? It's crazy. You put that on there and you send it up. Now they know this matters, okay? They know this matters. And I can tell you, you're a constituent and they get involved and get this in their districts, all right? Let me tell you, it's important because then they know if you help a dyslexic constituent and now their kids on grade level, not only is that person going to vote for them regardless of party, they're going to let all their friends know about it. All right. But again, even if you don't really care much about, all right, you are spending billions of dollars ineffectively. We want to help cut. How would you like to have sports again? How would you like to have music again? If we can get these kids a grade level by the end of fifth grade, again, we still probably have some expense from special ed, but you could say 5, 10, sometimes 15 grand a year per kid for the rest of the time in high school per year. We're talking 50, 100K a kid. Times that by 10, 20, 50 kids. Now you got music back. You got sports back, and it's not going to cost you one dime more in taxes. What a crazy idea.
Yep, dyslexic or not, you're paying for it. So, let's just put it like that. You're right. And as long as you're being a productive citizen, dyslexic or not, you're funding it, New Yorkers. So, I like that. I like that because rather you don't have to be dyslexic. You're spending money on this. I know we all say we should have less taxes, all that, but this is an important issue here. I don't want to hear that Republican talking point. Look, I could bash Republicans and Democrats, but this is more important here. This is when I have some downtime, first world issues where we deal with, but this is an important issue here. You want to improve education outcomes? This is a great way to do that. So, especially for
I'm just going to look at the Republicans funded me. And what the Republicans do is they say, get this in a public school, have the public school say they want funding for this. Number two, it's very simple. Make it a lot better, make it a lot faster, make it a lot cheaper. That's Republicans. Democrats are different. They want to start off with a big bill. Okay. So either way, contact your assemblyman, your assembly person, your senator, write them a letter if you can. And if we get enough people like that, we can literally shift the states by hundreds of millions or over $1 billion a year as we get this spread apart. It's not that hard to do.
Yep. So look, you got a lot of call to action. Besides, check his site, which I normally do, but that's a more important call to action. If you give at least somewhat of a damn, write a handwritten letter to your assembly person and state senator. Okay. And but besides that, go check out his stuff. Look, he's taught me a lot. And look, I don't mind being challenged. Look, the host, he's being revealed little by different guests, which I like. Because I want to be revealed, but not all at once. I don't like to put everything in, put all your eggs in one basket. Nope. I'm like an Easter egg hunt. I got eggs spread all over the place. And they're all very hard to find. And on top of that, it's not just Easter eggs. It is hitting on a very scary, dark, haunted house. If you're brave enough and determined enough, you'll eventually find them all. I like that Easter and Halloween analogy. So again, go check out dyslexicclasses.com. Okay. Just do that. I'm going to link that in the description of the episode. And again, just make sure you give a handwritten letter to your assembly person and senator. I think that's very important. That's so important, people. Oh, I was about to just, you left it a good time. I was just going to do the wrap up with my podcast plug-in.
Okay. Nope, I'm all set. But I came back. It kicked me out.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to do an episode on Riverside. Why are you messing up more than usual? I don't know.
It's because it was on the news. There's a problem with Amazon Web Services. Yeah, something there.
No, you already said all your great stuff. Remember, again, check Dyslexia. Let me just make sure I get that website. Dyslexiaclasses.com. Okay? It's plural, not singular. But I'm going to have the link in the description. Anyway, so just do that. And I'm also going to remind you just handwrite to your assembly person and state senator. Now for my shameless plug-in. Like, comment, subscribe. And when you do a review, tell me what you like about the episode. What made it great? I like specific feedback. What made this episode great? And then if I got a 4-star less, how can this episode be improved? Okay, I like specific feedback, rather it's negative or positive. If it's just, oh, it's great, oh, it sucks, you end it like that, it don't help. And I'll just ignore those. Even if it's a compliment, yeah, just say, oh, your show is great. I skip that too. Specific feedback is what I'm looking for, okay? especially in Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And if you're feeling a little generous, give a little donation. And two more things I like to plug in. I've been doing this recently. The new paper, very quick read. The longest is 5 minutes if you read every single little section. But if you're just into politics or stocks and sports, that's gonna be 1 or 2 minutes. Very quick read, and it's free. And then the last one, the free website guys. If you want to give me money without giving me money, I know it sounds crazy to you. Go to that site, get yourself a free website if you need one. Then they're gonna give me some money for that. You'll be helping this show greatly. It's gonna go to the show. It's gonna be improved studio, improved equipment, and we're gonna start doing 4K more often if I give enough funds. If not, we're gonna stay at 1080p for a while. All right. And let's see, am I missing anything else? No, you know what? Thank you, really. This has been enlightening for me. I've learned the mystery's going to be revealed one way or another. I prefer it to be slowly. So this has been awesome. I thank you so much, Russell Van Brocklen. That's his full name. Okay, just give him support, people. He's doing important work here. This is not just, for another. It's nice to have sports and music, but we could get this resolved. I'm sure we could get nicer things as New Yorkers. Would be one step closer at least. All right. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So, one more thing. I keep forgetting this. Join Podmatch. Join it. It's such a great site. You'll be with great people. And the one pager function is so great. You can edit it, refresh, edit, save, refresh right on the spot instead of just, I don't know, create your PDF through a PowerPoint. If you make a mistake, you got to undo that and give another one. And it gets lost in the email thread. We don't got time for that. Update. Use AI. don't be a dinosaur. Don't be a fossil. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. Just don't join Podmatch. It's so much easier. There's even free plans. All right. Free. Try for free at least. Right? So much easier than going through a bunch of emails. Come on, we in 2025. Emails are so 2010 at this point. Come on, people. You're better than this. All right, you're better than this. Once you complete this visual or audio journey, have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.